This is the update for Tuesday, March 31st. We'll get started with just some local news, some things you're probably already aware of, but if not, I just want to touch base. The first community spread case of coronavirus was reported in the news yesterday. So that's concerning because it wasn't, the person that contracted it wasn't able to be traced back to someone else that had been either tested positive or had been tested before. So that's a little concerning. And then obviously the federal extension till April 30th came out yesterday as well. And then locally, just driving by the OSF building, just I guess that'd be west of Methodist College, and I see a brown, what I assume is a triage tent. I don't know for sure, but that's what it appears to be to me. And that kind of hits home that this is even more serious than maybe we even thought, because it's getting literally within a couple miles of my house. So if that concerns me, it really worries me about what's that doing to our children and their thoughts around this matter. And that's a big concern for a lot of people. The Illinois State Board of Education guidelines that came out for this remote learning plan probably mentioned emotional or mental probably 50 times within that document. So it's a real concern, and understandably so, with what's going on. Not yesterday, yes, it was yesterday. A survey had gone out, and amongst the Illinois superintendents asking, which do you prefer, the governor to do the school closures 2 to 3 weeks at a time, or go ahead and just, give us direction and pull the plug now and just say we're done for the year. I've discussed this in a couple of these different video updates already, what my opinion was. I really don't know. But my opinion, just common sense wise, it looks unlikely. I mean, on the news they said April's going to be worse than March, and then May will be worse than April. That's not a positive indication that we're going to be coming back. So we'll see what comes of that. But I know Brent Clark, the director of the IASA, was going to meet with the governor yesterday and have those discussions. And I don't know what the results of the survey were. I can tell you locally, it was kind of a mixed bag. Personally, my preference would be if we're done, just say we're done and allow us to plan accordingly. And instead of doing these 2 to 3 week increments where we're kind of holding off on some things, because if we come back, that changes what we were planning. If we know we're not coming back, then we can plan accordingly and say, okay, these are the circumstances. Now let's adjust accordingly. With that, also that information with the extension from the federal government, prom was scheduled for April 25th, and obviously that's no longer a possibility with the extension of the mass gatherings not being allowed. So we'll have to look to do something with that. Just like graduation, I'm not ready to just cancel that at this point. I think it's important to give these students an opportunity to reconnect, even if the school year is closed, and that we don't come back to the buildings. If we can try and do something in June, just to give them that sense of closure, I guess is a good word. I think that's important for these students, just to have that peace of mind that, this is the last time some of these kids are going to see some of their classmates. And, that same thing goes for graduation. So we're working through those things. Obviously, there's things we cannot control. If there are, mandates in place that we can't have mass gatherings, that's going to make it difficult to do some of these things. But we're obviously open to these things. I'm not ready to say we're not going to do them. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. So I appreciate your patience. I've had several emails with some good ideas. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas out there. So we'll see what comes in the near future and see if we can do something with that. And one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the 8th grade promotion ceremonies at Dunlap Valley and Dunlap Middle, which is personal to me because I've got an 8th grader at Valley. Again, not a culminating activity such as the high school graduation, but still very important to those students as well. And having conversations with Mr. Holmes and Mr. Johnson, those aren't off the table either. Again, I think it's important to give those students that sense of closure, and I want to do that if we're able. So I will keep you posted, as things develop and we get better idea of what we're going to be allowed to do, when and where, we'll adjust accordingly and make those plans. Speaking of adjustments, today starts the remote learning plan days. Now, today and tomorrow are basically like Teachers Institute days. With the guidance from the Illinois State Board, you were given basically 5 remote planning days, they call them. Basically, they're Teachers Institutes, so that teachers could get prepared with the ISB guidelines that came out, Friday night, to get ready to move forward. So I think it makes sense to, we're asking them to do something completely different than what they've done before, and give them time to plan accordingly. The plan was developed, I think I've stated this before, but the entire administrative team, in conjunction with the Dunlap Education Association co-presidents, John Allison and Sarah Solorio, and it has worked really well. I appreciate the efforts of everyone. Hours upon hours were spent putting this together. And I don't want to take credit for someone else's work. The vast majority of this was done by Matt Andrews, and he's done a wonderful job. This was developed with the understanding that we've got roughly 4,600 students in this district, and a large amount of diversity. When I say diversity, I'm not talking about just ethnic and cultural diversities, but I'm also talking economic diversity, students from different backgrounds. Also, with that being said, the teachers that are going to be asked to deliver this material, a lot of them are parents too. So they're going to have students at home that they're going to expect to be doing their work as students, but then as teachers and educators, they've got to do their work as well. It's a big ask. The bottom line is this: you have to start somewhere. And this is a starting point, and this plan will be adjusted as we progress. So I'm very comfortable with where we're at with our plan. I've had at least 8 other superintendents reach out to me and ask me to send them our materials so they could use those as a template. And then yesterday, I had 3 districts from Iowa get a hold of me asking if they could use our information as templates. Obviously, I said yes, and this, since trying to keep this material to ourselves, it's beneficial to students, we have an obligation to share that out, so we have. Now, I guess the way you need to look at this is, it's a starting point. Hopefully we can adjust this and grow it as we move forward. But I guess, the cliches, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. You got to start somewhere. Same thing with the Couch to 5K program. When you start a large initiative like that, you don't just jump into it right away. You ease into it. When you Couch to 5K, you walk for 2 minutes and run for 1, and repeat that for 6 minutes, in your first week. Same thing type here. We're going to ease into this. Hopefully, as our teachers get more comfortable with it, our students get more comfortable with it, our administrators get more comfortable with it, then we can kind of step our game up as we move forward. But I think we're very comfortable with where we're at right now. And it's a good starting point, and hopefully, it goes in a positive direction. We can adjust it as we go. The bottom line with this also is, your principals, phenomenal job. I see the communications they send out. They've been great, explaining things and being very clear, being open. Communication is the key. Again, we are fully cognizant that not everybody is in the same family dynamic and situation, and there are outside influences that will impact your students' abilities to engage in this type of learning. Whether you have internet or not is a big one. We understand these things, and we want to work with you. We're willing to work with you. We just need to make sure we're in communication with one another, and we can formulate a plan to move forward. So please, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, reach out to your teacher, your counselor, your principal. Reach out to me, reach out to your director of student services, anyone. We are willing to work with you, and together we can get this done. But again, we have to work together. So far, it's gone very well. I appreciate the kind words that everyone has sent out. I think everyone understands that, this is new, and we're doing the best we can, and just trying to be honest and upfront of where we're at with this and where we think it's going to go. So again, thank you. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kids. We miss you, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.